जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati ruttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha nandagopa kumaraya govindaya namo namaha. Hare Krishna. We are reading from Canto 6, Chapter 16, verse number 26. Title is entitled King Chitraketu Meets the Lord. We are on a very important section. Shri Shuka Uvacha Bhaktayaitam Prapannaya Vidyamadishya Naradaha Yayavangira Sashakam Dhama Swayambhuvam Prabhu. Shri Shuka Uvacha Bhaktayaitam Prapannaya Vidyamadishya Naradaha Yayavangira Sasakam Dhama Swayambhuvam Prabhu. Shri Shuka Uvacha Bhaktayaitam Prapannaya Vidyamadishya Naradaha Yayavangira Sasakam Dhama Swayambhuvam Prabhu. Shri Shuka Uvacha Vidyamadishya Naradaha Yayavangira Sasakam Dhama Swayambhuvam Prabhu. Shri Shuka Uvacha Bhaktayaitam Prapannaya Vidyamadishya Naradaha Yayavangira Sasakam Dhama Swayambhuvam Prabhu. Matajis. Shri Shuka Uvacha Bhaktayaitam Prapannaya Vidyamadishya Naradaha Yayavangira Sashakam Dhama Swayambhuvam Prabhu. Shri Shuka Uvacha Shri Shukdev Goswami said, Bhaktaya, unto the devotee, Etam, this, Prapannaya, unto one who fully surrendered, Vidyam, transcendental knowledge, Adishya, instructing, Naradaha, the great sage Narada, Yayo, left, Angirasa, the great sage Angira, Sakam, with, Dhama, for the topmost planet, Swayambhuvam, belonging to Lord Brahma, Prabhu, O King. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Shukadev Goswami continued, Narada, having become the spiritual master of Chitraketu, instructed him fully in this prayer because Chitraketu was fully surrendered. O King Parikshit, Narada then left with the great king Angira for the topmost planet known as Brahmaloka. Purport. When Angira had first come to visit King Chitraketu, he did not bring Narada with him. However, after the death of Chitraketu's son, Angira brought Narada to instruct King Chitraketu about Bhakti Yoga. The difference was that, in the beginning, Chitraketu was not in a temperament of renunciation. But after the death of his son, when he was overwhelmed by his great plight, he was awakened to the platform of renunciation by instructions regarding the falsity of this material world and material possessions. It is only at this stage that Bhakti Yoga can be instructed. As long as one is attached to material enjoyment, Bhakti Yoga cannot be understood. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 2.44. Bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya parita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho navidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. As long as one is very much attached to material enjoyment, one cannot concentrate his mind on the subject matter of devotional service. The Krishna consciousness movement is progressing successfully in the Western countries at the present moment because the youth in the West have reached the stage of Vairagya or renunciation. They are practically disgusted with material pleasure from material sources, and this has resulted in a population of hippies throughout the Western countries. Now, if these young people are instructed about Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, the instructions will certainly be effective. As soon as Chitraketu understood the philosophy of Vairagya Vidya, the knowledge of renunciation, he could understand the process of Bhakti Yoga. In this regard, Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has said, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Vairagya Vidya and Bhakti Yoga are parallel lines. One is essential for understanding the other. It is also said, Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Viraktiranyatra. Advancement in devotional service or Krishna consciousness is characterized by increasing renunciation of material enjoyment. Narada Muni is the father of devotional service, and therefore, just to bestow causeless mercy upon King Chitraketu, Angira brought Narada Muni to instruct the king. These instructions were extremely effective. Anyone who follows in the footsteps of Narada Muni is certainly a pure devotee. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanitamscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. I bow down to all the worshipable devotees assembled here. Seek your blessings. You are giving me this opportunity for my purification, and I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity. Please bless me that I'll be able to speak something that is in line with parampara and pleasing to the Vaishnavas. Today we are on a very important section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, when we come to devotional service, one of the first things that we learn is what Radhesham Prabhu calls the law of last thought. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever thought one remembers at the time of his death, that state he will surely attain in the next life. So, even in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Srila Shukadeva Goswami, he starts instructing Maharaj Parikshit, he immediately says, Ante Narayana Smriti. He starts glorifying about the importance of remembering Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu, at the time of one's death. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Bhyam Swadharma Parinishtaya Jnanam Labhya Para Pumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. 2.1.6, that is 6th verse after Shukadeva Goswami starts instructing. He immediately tells Maharaj Parikshit about the importance of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the time of death. And especially when in the early days, when we think about this, we always get the question, will I be able to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the time of my death? Will it be possible for me to remember the Supreme Lord? Srila Shukadeva Goswami, in order to encourage Maharaj Parikshit, he is narrating this Srimad Bhagavatam, this particular pastime of Rudrasura. has so many importances, is so important for in the life of devotees. One importance is the difficult situation in which Vritrasura was at the time of his death, and the kind of success he achieved in remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that situation. I mean, that we cannot imagine being in a more difficult situation than what Vritrasura was at the time of his death. All of his associates were demoniac. Everyone was against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotees, the demigods, they were completely against him. They were praying for his destruction. They were praying for his death. They were using big missiles, wonderful missiles they had obtained just for killing Vritrasura. In the heat of battle, faced with such difficulties, Vritrasura is able to achieve supreme success in offering the choicest prayers to Lord Narayan, to Lord Vishnu, to Lord Shri Krishna, and leaving his body in the most amazing way. And this amazes Maharaj Parikshit. How is it that a person who had created so much trouble for the entire universe, everyone was in so much terror. I mean, if you think about today's terrorists, they are nothing compared to what Vritrasura was. I mean, huge form, very demoniac to look at and killing everyone, and demigods are trying their level best to kill him, but not succeeding in killing him. So how is it that such a person, he was able to achieve the supreme success in devotional service? In general, this is a question that all people across the world have. How is it that wonderful things happen to bad people? How is it that good things happen to bad people? How is it that bad things happen to supposedly good people? Right? So these questions have perplexed humanity since time immemorial. And the perfect answer is there in the Vedic scriptures. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens whimsically. There is a reason for everything. And in order to answer this question, Shukadeva Goswami tells about the past history of Vritrasura. How there was a wonderful king named Chitraketu. Chitraketu was pretty much the king of the world. He was extremely popular among all the people. He was in the prime of youth, extremely prosperous. He had an unrivaled kingdom. He had everything going for him. But as is the nature of this material world, no matter how well things are going, this is the situation of everyone in this world, no matter how well things are going, even in the best of situations, there will always be something going on in our life which will be a source of trouble for us, which will be a source of problem for us. And that was the situation of Maharaj Chitraketu as well. Although he had an unrivaled kingdom and so many opulences, he was lamenting a lot because he did not have a son. And because of this focus, because of this concentration on this one thing which he had, devotees give an example that if everything is going well in our life, we have a healthy body, everything is going well, our job is going well, but a thorn comes and pricks us, right? We don't think about all the good things that are happening. The only thing that we think about is the pain that the thorn is causing. And the only thing that Maharaj Chitraketu could think about at that time was the pain that he was having because of not having a son. See, Srila Prabhupada is talking about this. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya aparhita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidyayate. When a person is fixated on one object which he thinks is going to make him happy, he cannot get any kind of spiritual instructions. No spiritual instructions. They just don't fall on his heart. We see in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, he was insulted by his stepmother, Suruchi. And because of that great insult, Dhruva Maharaj, he just wanted a kingdom. His father also agreed. His father also did not protest when he was insulted. The only thing that Dhruva Maharaj was fixated on was how he can get a position superior to that of his father, superior to that of his grandfather, superior to that of his great-grandfather. Supreme position he wanted, because that was the thing that he was fixated on. Later on, when he met Narada Muni, and Narada Muni tried to give him good instructions that in every situation, you should try to remain satisfied. He gives how to remain satisfied. Whenever you meet someone who has better qualities, who is superior to you, one should feel happy. Whenever you meet somebody who is equal to you, you should feel, you should make friendship. And whenever you feel somebody who may not have as good qualities as you should be compassionate upon that person. And Dhruva Maharaj says, your instructions are wonderful, but they don't stick in my heart. I am not able to follow them. That was the situation of Maharaj Chitraketu. Maharaj Angirasa, the great sage Angirasa, he came to his palace. And Angirasa, Srila Prabhupada is saying, even when he came in that situation, he could have delivered transcendental knowledge to Maharaj Chitraketu. But Chitraketu was just not ready for it because of his fixation on this desire of his. See, when a wood is wet, it is soaked in water, it cannot catch fire. When fire falls on dry grass, immediately it catches fire. This is what Srila Prabhupada is talking about. When a person is on the stage of renunciation, when he is not bewildered by such things, immediately he can take to devotional service. But when a wood is soaked in water, spiritual instructions just don't stand. That was the situation of Maharaj Chitraketu. But that is the glory of great devotees like Angira and Narada Muni. That the amount of heat that they have, that is so high that even if the wood is wet, they first dry up the wood and then they ignite fire in that wood. So that is what Angira did. He understood that Chitraketu cannot take spiritual instructions at this point in time. So what he gave him was a son who will enable him to take spiritual instructions. Very prophetically, he knew what was going to happen. He had in fact arranged for it. He had asked Maharaj Chitraketu to name his son Harsha Shoka, one who will give him happiness as well as lamentation. And then he performed a sacrifice which enabled Maharaj Chitraketu to have that son, and exactly that is what happened. Maharaj Chitraketu, who had many wives, uncountable wives. Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra ki jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Sudarshan Dev ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. So Maharaj Chitraketu, he had uncountable wives, but after his son was born from one of the wives, he was completely fixated. He focused all of his attention, all of his affection only on that son and that particular wife, to the neglect of everyone else. They became miserable. They were extremely miserable because of the neglect of Maharaj Chitraketu. Sometimes devotees have this question that the other wives of Maharaj Chitraketu, they were themselves extremely pious people. They were extremely pious, they were highly cultured, they were in the association of Maharaj Chitraketu. So how is it that they took such a strong step that they killed the son of the emperor? They took such a strong step. And Guru Maharaj in one of his classes, he explains that neglect, how one person behaves with the other, it can bring about either the best or the worst from that person. See, they were pious people, but they were not Paramahamsas. For example, Dhruva Maharaj, he was a Paramahamsa. So when his father neglected him, he tried to kill him, in so many ways, by throwing him from mountains, burning him. He was completely unaffected. Dhruva Maharaj was Maharaj Prahlad was a Paramahamsa. He was not affected by these things at all. But these pious ladies, because of this activity, they could not tolerate it, and they fed poison to the child, and the child died. And after that, the lamentation of King Chitraketu was undescribable, unbearable. The happiness, see, lamentation and happiness, material happiness and lamentation, they are actually two sides of the same coin. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says that in this world, either we are imagining that we are happy or we are imagining that we are distressed. There is no such thing. I mean, it's simply an imagination. So if somebody has a peak of material happiness, they are sure that they are going to get to the peak of lamentation as well. And in that peak of lamentation, when Maharaj Chitraketu was practically lying like a dead person next to the corpse of his son, there again come Chitraketu, Maharaj, the great sage Angira, and Narada Muni. Now, in that stage of lamentation, Maharaj Chitraketu is begging for spiritual knowledge. Please, please, please give me spiritual knowledge. Please, he is begging for that. And in that stage, Narada Muni and Angira, they give him supreme spiritual knowledge. And the knowledge that they give him, that is also exactly how Srila Prabhupada used to give spiritual knowledge. Once a group of devotees approached Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada asked them, what are you doing? They said, Srila Prabhupada, we are preaching. And Srila Prabhupada asked them, what do you preach? Srila Prabhupada, we preach that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada said, first you should preach, you are not the body, you are the soul. So that is what Narada Muni, he preaches to Chitraketu, about how we are not the body. We are constantly transmigrating from one body to the other. The body of a demigod, body of an insect, body of an animal, body of a bird, body of a human being, constantly shifting. The same person who was our father in the previous life, he can become our son, he can become our enemy. So many, all these transformations, they are temporary. This is the preaching that Narada Muni does. See, whenever we go for preaching, you are not the body, you are the soul, right? We use PowerPoints and we use various instances from past life reincarnation stories and all. That is what we use in our preaching. But because Narada Muni was such an elevated sage, he could actually give a live demonstration. So he could actually bring the dead son back. He spoke the philosophy. So that convinces that we are not the body, we are the spirit soul, we are eternal. And then that boy left. So, and after that, Narada Muni gave knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He gave an Upanishad in the form of a mantra, which will enable Maharaj Chitraketu to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after giving this knowledge, that we are not the body, we are the spirit soul, and this supreme knowledge that enables one to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as this verse says, Narada Muni and Chitraketu, they left for the supreme planet within this world, that is the planet of Lord Brahma. Now, Srila Prabhupada, he says in particular in his purport that when a person has come to the point of renunciation, that is when he is ready to accept spiritual instructions. And he specifically talks about the hippie movement in US. Now, actually what had happened at that time was America was pretty much at the peak of material success, at the peak of material opulences. And the people over there, so many people, they were not seeing the point of it all. America at that time, it was engaged in Vietnam War. And many people were thinking that millions of Americans, they are actually fighting an unnecessary war, completely unnecessary war. So many people at that time, they felt this is so pointless. So they took to political activism. They started shouting slogans on the streets, protesting against the war. But that also turned out to be pointless. That did not have any effect on the war. So they are neither happy with the war, nor they are happy about the way their protests were going. They were completely frustrated. Many of the people, in fact 70-80% of the devotees who came to Krishna consciousness at that time, they were from these backgrounds where they were trying for some political reform, they were trying for some social reforms, equality, but that was not getting anywhere. They were trying for elevation of consciousness by experimenting with drugs and all, and that was also not going anywhere. So they were completely, everything is pointless. We have examples of devotees like Jayananda Prabhu. He had a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. He could have worked in the top corporate companies. But he was driving a taxi. Why? Because he did not see any point in living a materialistic life, in a rat race. He just didn't see the point. It was all meaningless. It was purposeless. And when these devotees came in contact with Srila Prabhupada gave them meaning and purpose. He gave them the understanding that they are spiritual bodies, they are eternal, going back home, back to Godhead is the goal of life. And the same devotees who are chanting slogans on the streets, protesting against war and all, they started doing kirtans on the street and spreading Krishna consciousness all over. And that is how Krishna consciousness literally, as we say, when spark is put on dry grass, right? It just catches fire. That is how Krishna consciousness completely caught up like fire and it spread like wildfire. Because the society at that time, they were ready for it because this aspect of renunciation. Srila Rupa Goswami, he gives, in fact, Srila Prabhupada says, right, he's saying here that renunciation and Bhakti Yoga, they are like two tracks. Life has to go on both of these tracks. And Srila Prabhupada, he has given the bare minimum. The minimum expectations from all devotees are the minimum, right? Minimum we should chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Srila Prabhupada does not say that that is the maximum. He says that is the minimum that we should chant. And minimum that one is expected in terms of renunciation is following the 4 regulative principles. At least we should be following the 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. But that is not the goal, that is not the highest. That is just the bare minimum that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Srila Prabhupada was explaining to one of the devotees, our ideal standard is to bring eating, sleeping, mating, defending to 0. We don't say it like that, he said, but that is our goal. We have to bring that to 0. And chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra 24 hours a day. That is the goal. So that is what Srila Prabhupada has given us. And that is necessary at every point in time, right? How I can decrease my engagement in material activities and how I can increase my hearing, chanting, right? That is the primary thing that devotees should be thinking about. Srila Rupa Goswami, he gives a wonderful understanding of Vairagya. So, Vairagya is actually the position of proper spiritual understanding. being situated in truth, in reality. That is Vairagya. Why? Because nothing belongs to us. Ishavasam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena taktena bhunjita magrada kasasya dhanam. Everything in this world is owned and controlled by the Lord. And one should only take those things which are necessary for himself, right? Which are set aside as his quota. And one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Srila Rupa Goswami, in particular, he gives the definition of Vairagya when he says, Anasakta se vishayan. Anasakta se vishayan yatharham upayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Anasakta se vishayan, without being attached to material objects, yatharham upayunjata, suitably engaging them in the service of the Lord, nirbandha Krishna sambandhe, in connection with the Lord, yuktam vairagyam uchyate. He says that this is ideal, this is yukta vairagya. Now, all opulences, everything in this world actually come from the Lord. And they have to be utilized in the service of the Lord. So what Srila Rupa Goswami is saying is that Yukta Vairagya is using every single thing which is actually owned by the Lord. It is the property of the Lord. If we get access to it, utilize it in Krishna's service. And that is the success of our life. The same thing Narada Muni says in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, that is the same thing. If we drink too much milk, it causes indigestion. But curd, which is a transformation of milk, can be used to treat indigestion. So now, going ahead, we will see how devotees, whatever opulences they were bestowed with, how they have utilized those opulences in the service of the Lord and developed ecstatic love for Krishna by utilizing the opulences that they were bestowed with. See, every devotee, all opulences, they belong to the Lord. In fact, the Vishnu Purana says that there are 6 kinds of opulences. There's no one opulence, right? There are 6 kinds of opulences. Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashasha shriyaha jnana vairagyayorcheva sannam bhaga etingana. There are 6 kinds of opulences. And we'll see how devotees have utilized each of these 6 opulences in the service of the Lord and made their life successful. So, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Jagannath Puri, he first resided at the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, where he converted this great scholar, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, into Vaishnavism. And shortly after that, he left for the tour of South India. When he was on the tour of South India, Maharaj Pratap Rutra, he very respectfully invited Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and asked him, I have heard that a very great saint from Bengal has come to Puri. Can you please tell me more about him? And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he told him with so much enthusiasm that this great saint is in fact the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna himself, who has come here. And when Maharaj Pratap Rudra heard that he is Krishna himself, he immediately said, because you are saying that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I wholly and completely accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And can you please, I beg you, can you please arrange for me to see him? Can you please arrange for an interview with him? And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, that will be very difficult because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is a very strict sannyasi. He will never have anything to do with even a person who has the title of Raja. So he will never agree to have a meeting with you. So, but still, Maharaj Pratap Rudra was so eager. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, because you are so sincere, because you are so eager, I am sure that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will bestow his mercy upon you. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked him that once Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returns, can he have a place to stay? And immediately Maharaj Pratap Rudra arranged for him to stay at the house of Kashi Mishra. That was the ideal suitable place for Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is today known as Gambhira. And when Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, he first came to Alarnath. From his tour of South India, he came to Alarnath. And when he heard that 200 devotees are coming from Bengal, immediately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left for Puri. And these devotees, they came to Puri. Almost simultaneously, they came. When these devotees came to Puri, Maharaj Pratap Rudra was standing on a terrace. And he was asking Gopinath Acharya, he was asking Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who are these devotees? And they were giving the introductions of all the devotees to Maharaj Pratap Rudra. Oh, this is Advaita Acharya, this is this devotee, this is that devotee. And the king was so happy, he was so impressed. Immediately, he made arrangements for those 200 devotees. He made arrangements for their stay. He made arrangements for their prasadam. And that was another service that Maharaj Pratap Rudra rendered. Then Ramananda Rai came. Ramananda Rai, he was the governor of Madras province. We can understand how expansive Maharaj Prataparudra's kingdom was. He was the governor working under Maharaj Prataparudra of the Madras province. And when he came, and when he informed the king that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants him to stay in Puri with him, the king immediately gave him full pension, full salary as his pension, and encouraged him to just be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that was another service that Maharaj Prataparudra rendered. And when, from time to time, Ramananda Rai would inform Maharaj Prataparudra about the glorious qualities of the king, and gradually it softened the mind. Everything we have heard from Radhesham Prabhu. When I first came to Krishna consciousness in college, I actually read the book 6-session course on Essence of Bhagavad Gita. When I first time Vasudev Prabhu answered all my questions, that was on the basis. And I immediately asked Vasudev Prabhu, can I have that book? So that is how I got introduced. And after I came to Pune, I was constantly hearing Radhesham Prabhu's classes in Atharva. So, beg your mercy, Prabhu. So that softened the mind of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya informed Maharaj Prataparudra that after Rath Yatra, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes tired, he will go to the garden, and at that time in the dress of a mendicant, of a simple Vaishnava, you go, and definitely Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will bestow his complete mercy upon you. See, Maharaj Prataparudra had come to such a stage that he was actually willing to give up his kingdom. He says, if my kingdom is coming in the way of me getting the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I'm willing to give this up. I'm willing to become a bhikari. I'm willing to become a beggar. So that was actually, he was completely detached from his kingdom. But at the same time, he was utilizing everything that he had in the service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later on, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to go to Vrindavan, King Prataparudra made such wonderful arrangements. He said, wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has to cross a river, ensure that there are new boats which are constructed for facilitating Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all of his devotees. Build new houses. Wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stays, build new houses. Stock them with grains, stock them with prasadam, so that the devotees are not inconvenienced in any way. Wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes bath, construct a memorial pillar. I will take my bath over there, and I want to leave my body over there. So that was the devotion of Maharaj Prataparudra. And these were the kind of facilities he made available for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started, Maharaj Prataparudra in fact brought his family on elephants, and they lined up the road. And as soon as his family members had darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, immediately they developed ecstatic love for Sri Krishna. So this is how he had instructed the biggest of his ministers, Harichandan, Maradraj. He had instructed them to facilitate. Even beyond his kingdom, they made arrangements for safe travels of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is how Maharaj Prataparudra used his opulence of Aishwarya. Aishwarya means power, position, prestige, influence. That is how Maharaj Prataparudra used his Aishwarya in the service of the Lord. Even today we see, right, so many devotees. We see Ambarish Prabhu, how much he is striving, how much of his opulences he is utilizing in the service of the Lord for constructing TOAP. Now, sometimes people may think, oh, he is such a rich person, that is why he is doing. Actually, that is not the case. It is not easy for everyone. They are actually encountering personal difficulties. It is only because of their devotion that they are able to do this. So this is how devotees have used the opulence of Aishwarya in the service of the Lord. Then there is Virya. At the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was saying that I will give up my kingdom. I will live the life of a beggar. I don't want this, right? I will not fight. But then on the instruction of the Lord, and because Lord Krishna wanted that, Arjuna fought very violently. And he achieved success on behalf of the Lord. So Virya, it means using bravery. Virya can also mean adventure. So when we take to Krishna consciousness, it is actually a war against Maya. And every devotee when we meet, usually for the first time, we always ask, how did you come to Krishna consciousness? And always the answers that they give, they are a source of so much joy, because every devotee has to actually go through so many adventures in order to actually take to Krishna consciousness. So devotees use their strength, whether we are cooking for thousands of devotees in the kitchen, transferring prasadam, standing in the sun, building temples, distributing books. All of this is actually using our strength in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is one very unique way in which the word Virya is used in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Maitreya Rishi, he is telling about the process of creation to Vidura. And in the course of his discussion, Maitreya Muni informs Vidura about how Varahadev, he was manifested from the nose of Lord Brahma, and he lifted the earth and placed it in orbit. And immediately, Vidura, he asked Maitreya Muni, I heard that Varaha had a fight with the demon Hiranyaksha. Can you please tell me more about that fight? How was that fight? So at that time, Maitreya Muni addresses Vidura. He says, Sadhu Virya Tvaya Prishtham, Avatara Kathau Hare, Yatvam Pritchasi Martyanam, Mrityupasha Vishadanim. He is addressing Maitreya Rishi as Sadhu Virya Tvaya Prishtham. Oh great hero, oh great warrior. So one may think, which wars did Vidura fight? We never find any instance where Vidura is taking his bow and arrows and fighting wars. So Srila Prabhupada, he explains in his purport that Vidura, he is very eager to hear about the valorous pastimes of the Lord, the valorous pastimes of Varahadev, valorous pastimes of Narasimhadev. So when we are eager to hear about the valorous pastimes of the Lord, that is actually acting as a Veer. That is also using Virya, the opulence of Virya, in the service of the Lord. So that, right, whether or not we are able to distribute volumes of books and all, this one thing everybody can do. We can hear about the glorious pastimes of the Lord, right? How Lord Ramchandra, he killed 14,000 Rakshasas at Janasthan. How Krishna, he so violently fought against Jarasanga. He killed so many demons. How he fought against Lord Shiva and Banasura in battles. So all these valorous pastimes of the Lord, we can hear and we can make our life successful. In fact, it is said about Dhruva Maharaj, that Dhruva Maharaj was extremely attached to hearing the pastimes of the Lord before he went back home, back to Godhead. So we may not be able to perform austerities, tapasya like Dhruva Maharaj. But this one thing everybody can do. Everybody can hear about the pastimes of the Lord. And that itself becomes a source of going back home, back to Godhead. So that is how we can use Virya in the service of the Lord. Then there is Yasha. Yasha means fame. Devotees can have fame. Fame is actually coming from the Lord, and devotees can utilize their fame in the service of the Lord. We see that George Harrison Prabhu, he was one of the Beatles, and they were so famous, so exceedingly famous. In fact, it is said that till date, there is no artist who has become as famous as the Beatles, till date. Every single of their song was becoming hit and all. And George Harrison Prabhu, he utilized his entire fame in the service of the Lord. He himself enabled the devotees to compose wonderful songs. Daily we pray Govindam Adi Purusham prayers when the darshan opens. So that was actually composed, the music was composed by George Harrison Prabhu. He had created those records. He himself composed songs. He used to play those songs. His songs such as My Sweet Lord, they became famous all over the world. And millions of people, they started chanting Hare Krishna because of George Harrison Prabhu's songs and because of the foreword that he has written for the Krishna book. So devotees, they would simply show the foreword given by George Harrison Prabhu, and immediately those books devotees would buy. So that is how George Harrison Prabhu used his fame in the service of the Lord. Then there is Shriya. Shriya means beauty. All beauty belongs to Krishna. We can see that, right? And how wonderfully devotees decorate the deity of the Lord, the altar of the Lord, the temple of the Lord. How beautifully devotees have created paintings, such wonderful paintings which are present in BBT. And these paintings themselves, they attract so many people. These paintings, when I was a small child, I used to see Mahabharata serial, and the paintings they used were actually ISKCON paintings, and they were such wonderful paintings. Lord Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita and all that attracted me so much. So one painting of Krishna in particular, Krishna holding a flute, right, with parrot and all. When in my initial days of Krishna consciousness, I had that painting, and it was so inspiring. I remember Gaurang Prabhu used to give classes, and we were sitting, and there were pictures of Radha Vrindavan Chandra placed at Shamcharan Prabhu's house. So Gaurang Prabhu used to give classes, and I used to simply keep looking at those pictures of Radha Vrindavan Chandra. Now we are so fortunate, we are living under the shelter of Radha Vrindavan Chandra. So in fact, it is using all forms of art, whether it is cooking. Devotees cook such delicious prasadam, and that attracts so many people to Krishna consciousness. So in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we find that there is Raghav Pandit, who is a very intimate servant of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He and his sister, they are so fond of preparing varieties of preparation. In fact, for entire year, they prepare so many preparations for the entire year. And there is Raghav Pandit's jhalis, there is his bag. So there is one disciple of his who carries his bags all the way from, they used to live in Panihati, and they would carry all these bags to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, throughout the year, he used to relish this. It is said that those preparations were soaked in devotion. So he used to relish those preparations throughout the year. And that is how they made their art of cooking completely successful. They completely satisfied Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by their art of cooking. Devotees sing so melodiously. Every day we have such wonderful kirtans, and that attracts so many people to Krishna consciousness. So this is how devotees utilize Shriya. No? This is how devotees utilize beauty in the service of Lord. Then there is Jnana. See, all the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the parishads of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they're exceedingly wonderful. Even among them, especially the 6 Goswamis, they stand out. Why? Because they unearthed so many places of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and they wrote so many books establishing the principles of devotional service, giving the tattva of devotional service, establishing the validity, how Srimad Bhagavatam is pramanam, how Srimad Bhagavatam, especially Srila Jiva Goswami, has written the Tattva Sandarbha, establishing Srimad Bhagavatam as the pramanam amalam. They have written so many books explaining the Tattva, explaining the Leelas of the Lord. And so they have written so many books. They have written so many books. And that was in fact such a wonderful time in the history of Krishna consciousness when all these beautiful, wonderful temples were being built. The temple of Radha Madan Mohan, the temple of Govindji, the Keshi Ghat, Kusum Sarovar, all these places were being built. And Srila Jiva Goswami, right, he was the Acharya of all the Vaishnavas, and he composed so many wonderful books. He has written 4 lakh verses in glorification of the Lord. So this is how Jiva Goswami, he completely made his life successful. After the departure of Srila Jiva Goswami, Vrindavan, there were very difficult times on Vrindavan because a very despotic king, he actually ordered the destruction of Vrindavan. He destroyed the temples in Mathura. He barricaded all the roads of Vrindavan so that the deities are not allowed to go. And he actually wanted to destroy all the deities in Vrindavan. And it was such a difficult time because there were so many atrocities being performed. Some or the other, the devotees within haystacks, they managed to ship the deities, Shri Govindji, Radha Damodar, Radha Madan Mohan, all these deities, some or the other, they managed to transfer them to Jaipur. But the devotees in Vrindavan, they had to undergo so many difficulties because we cannot imagine the amount of harassment that they went through, the temples, and most importantly, the toll that it took on their consciousness. It was such a difficult period in the history of Krishna consciousness. But then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he came onto the scene. And by constantly moving about in Vrajabhumi, by constantly encouraging devotees, by writing books which are so full of rasa, he was trying his level best to bring back the consciousness of devotees, to restore the glory of Raj back to its original glory. And he was praying to the Lord to have a suitable assistant who can help him in this mission. At that time, there was a wonderful devotee who was born in Utkal, who was born in Odisha, and he was such a great scholar. He had taken initiation in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, and he was in fact a Digvijay Pandit. He was traveling all over South India, defeating all the people. And finally, when he came back to Puri, he was defeated by Srila Radha Damodar Das Goswami, who was a disciple of Rasikananda. So this great Digvijay Pandit, he was defeated by Radha Damodar Das Goswami, and he immediately wanted to take initiation from Radha Damodar Das Goswami. And Radha Damodar Das Goswami, he gave him the initiation and gave him the name of Baldev. And after learning the Sat Sandarbhas of Srila Jiva Goswami from Radha Damodar Das Goswami, again he went out on a victory tour. And again he was touring all of India and defeating people and converting them to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And after he came back again to Jagannath Puri, he was asking his Guru Maharaj, who is the greatest Vaishnava living today? And Radha Damodar Das Goswami, he told him about the glories of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And this desire came in the heart of Srila Baldev, that I have to go and I have to study under Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he went to Vrajabhumi, and for years together, he studied under Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. They restored the entire glory of Raja back, these two devotees. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he was very elderly, and Baldev Vidyabhushan, Baldev ji at that time, right, he was also engaged in his bhajan when there was a big crisis in Jaipur. The Vaishnavas of Jaipur, the Ramanandi Vaishnavas of Jaipur, they raised objection. They were saying that Srimati Radharani cannot be worshipped with Govindji, and they in fact raised a big objection with the king of Jaipur. And the king did not know what to do because the devotees, the pujaris, they were simple devotees. They could not defend shastrically the basis of our method of worship. So the king of Jaipur, he had Srimati Radharani moved to a separate altar, and he sent word to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The Vrajavasis, when they informed Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur about what had happened, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur initially only smiled, and they thought maybe we did not communicate what has happened. So they again narrated to him what had happened, and he started laughing. So they asked, Maharaj, what has happened? He says, oh, Srimati Radharani, she is exhibiting her man pastimes. She is angry with Govindji, that is why she had left. But of course, the prestige of the Sampradaya, that had to be defended. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he said, I am too old to travel, but Baldev can travel, and he can establish the right Siddhanta over there. So first they had to search for Srila Baldev, right, who was in the caves of Govardhan, and they requested him. And Sri Baldev, he went to Jaipur, and when he started the discussion in the court of Maharaj Jai Singh, that time they said that, see, you don't have a bona fide commentary. See, any sampradaya, they have to have commentaries on a Prasthana Traya, on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the 10 principal Upanishads, and the Vedanta Sutra. They said that you don't have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And Baldev, he said that, well, Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on the Bhagavatam, right? So Bhagavatam is the natural commentary. That is why we accept that as the commentary. They said, see, this means that you don't have a commentary. And we will only discuss this matter with someone who has a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So he was dejected. He went, he took blessings of Govindji. And that night itself, Govindji came in his dream. And he said that, I will dictate the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And you write that. And that will be undefeatable. So immediately he got up, he took a bath, he went to the altar of Govindji, and he started writing the Govinda Bhashya commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And when he presented that in the court, that was undefeatable. Every single argument that Srila Baldev could make, they could not be countered. In fact, the Ramanandi Vaishnavas were so impressed that they offered that we want to take initiation from you. So he managed to inspire all those devotees so much. And then he got the title of Vidyabhushan. So since that time he is known as Baldev Vidyabhushan. So see, even Gyan, all this knowledge, it is actually the opulence of the Lord, right? And devotees, they are actually able to just take it from the Lord and offer it back to the Lord as an offering, right? And that is how they are able to utilize this opulence of Gyan in the service of the Lord. And then there is Vairagya. All devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in fact, they are famous for this. But especially in that, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he stands out for his Vairagya. So, in today's class, we saw the importance of Vairagya in devotional service. How only when a person has at least a certain level of detachment, he is able to understand anything about Krishna consciousness. How important it is to cultivate this important aspect of Krishna consciousness. And also we saw how devotees are able to utilize whatever opulence the Lord has given them in the service of the Lord and make their life successful. So if there are any corrections, questions, comments, I'll stop here. Any corrections, Prabhu? Please. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
I am eager to know.
Yes, Prabhu.
The turning point of your life, you joined the ISKCON.
Oh, yes.
What is the event that you joined that ISKCON?
I'll honestly tell you, Prabhu, when I was doing my MTech, I was studying in IIT Bombay. So at that time, these fundamental questions about whether there is life after death, they were actually troubling me. I was actually very curious to know whether there is life after that. I had read many books. I was actually, even before, I was a very voracious reader. So I had many books which gave me an understanding that there is life after death. But what is the science? Is it actually there? Is it there or not? What happens after death? Is there such a thing as moksha? So I was looking for these answers. And I was on my own, I was reading variety of books from variety of authors. but I was not understanding anything. It was all hosh-posh. And in fact, I was very eager. So I was just reading one book after the other, but I was not understanding much. But finally, I'm actually telling you, when I got this 6-session course on essence of Bhagavad Gita, Radhesham Prabhu has written a book, which is now today known as The Spiritual Scientist, Discover Yourself. So at that time, Vasudev Prabhu, who was 1 year senior to me, so he used to, just 2 rooms next to my room in hostel, he used to conduct what we used to call everyday 1 round chanting. So devotees would chant 1 round and they would discuss 6-session course on Bhagavad Gita. The first time I met Vasudev Prabhu, all my questions were answered. All my questions, whether there is life after death, how reincarnation takes place, whether ghosts are there, all those questions were answered in just one first meeting with Vasudev Prabhu. And then they would usually read just 1 paragraph. So I just asked him, can I keep this book with me and read it? So I read that book. And so that was one thing, that my questions were answered. There was another very important thing that happened, and that is the service attitude of the devotees. See, usually in hostels and all, we see that those who are seniors, they will rag the juniors, right? They will try to exploit the juniors. But devotees like Vasudev Prabhu, Gaur Hari Prabhu, Radhika Raman Prabhu, and other devotees who were there at that time, I could see that they used to cook for the juniors, first year students. They used, in the small facilities that they had, they would cook for the juniors. So my only desire at that time was somehow or the other I have to help the devotees. Now if anyone develops this desire, that somehow or the other I have to help the devotees. Because devotees, they were undergoing difficulties. In IIT it was not easy. But I was determined that in whatever small way I can, I will help the devotees. So when you start being with the devotees, naturally you take to Krishna consciousness. When I came to Pune, again I came to Pune for job, but Gaurari Prabhu, he introduced me to Atharva class. So I started attending Radhesham Prabhu's classes over there. And once in a week, that used to be my inspiration for the entire week. So once in a week, I used to hear Bhagavad Gita class. I used to have wonderful prasadam. That would help me continue. And later on, I started going to Surbikunj Voice and started getting more association of devotees. So that is what inspired me, Prabhu. That is how, by blessings of devotees, I'm continuing. So I'll pray to you to bless me that I always remain in the shelter of devotees. That I just continue with devotees. Please bless him, Prabhu. Rishikesh. So, any other comments, questions? Thank you very much, dear devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much.